Cool, so today we're going to talk about how to do a knot pass with a Radium release hitch. In this case we're using a Parallel Plaquette system, but this way to do a knot pass applies to all systems we use, be that an ATC redirected or a Scarab, what have you. You can use a Radium release hitch to do this. We're going to talk about in a different video on how to do this with the back end of the rope, but for this one we'll do the Radium. So I'm just going to tie a knot in my rope to mimic maybe two ropes being tied together, or whatever other knot you need to pass. So the first step I'm going to do is I need to lower until this knot is somewhere within about a foot of my upper device. We do not want to be too much less than a foot, because that's we're going to run into problems later, not being able to release our load. But lower our knot to about a foot here. So I'm going to maintain a hand on the brake strand here. I'm going to defeat my device by pulling on here, and we have Alex down here working as our load. Oh, he's pulling really hard. Cool. So I'm going to let go of the brake strand right here for a second. If we were actually lowering, we would not want to do that, but I'm going to give him some assistance in lowering until our knot is about a foot away from our device right here. Awesome. The next thing I'm going to do, if we're in guide mode, I can go ahead and let go of that for right now, especially because we get a knot right there. I'm going to take a pressic off my harness, or a gear sling in this case. I'm going to tie it around my load strand here. Next thing I'm going to do is take a locking carabiner, put one down here, I'm going to clip one back up to my shelf up here. I'm actually going to put it right here. The closer the better in this case. Awesome. Next I have about 30 feet of cord here. It's tied with 2 figure-8s with backup knots in the back end here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a munter on my first one here. So clip here, thumbs down grab. If you don't know how to tie a Radium release hitch, we'll talk about it in another video. Come down here, we're going to feed this guy through up here. Feed this guy through, and then finally we are going to clip my strand here. I'm going to wait to lock that guy for a second here. I'm actually going to lower a little bit more because I want a little bit more room to work with inside my Radium. So that should be pretty good right there. This bottom guy's locked. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close my system here. So I'm going to clip the other end of my knot here, back up here. Now I can lock this carabiner. We'll put this guy back up here, just keep it out of the way. Then I'm going to tie this guy off with a munter mule overhand. So I got my munter, tie my mule, and finally, my overhand. A little more slack there. Awesome. So again, I have my knot that is about a foot away from my upper plaquette device. I tied my Radium. I'm going to lock off as much slack out of here as I can. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to continue lowering until all of my load is transitioned from my plaquette devices onto my pressic and my Radium. So we're going to go ahead and lower now. Alex pulling real hard again. We're going to give him some assistance. Right now there's slack in that system, which is great. The next thing I'm going to do, just as a precautionary thing, is we have a single pressic down here on this line. We don't really like to trust single pressics all that much. So I'm just going to tie a figure-8. We're actually going to give ourselves a little more. So a couple arm lengths of slack here. Tie a figure-8 in the middle of my rope, figure-8 on a bite. Going to clip this back to my master point here, or my shelf, whatever I so choose. We'll do the shelf to keep it nice and neat. And this is going to act as it's a catastrophe knot. It's if everything else fails, we're still clipped in hard to our anchor, so we're not sacrificing some redundancy here. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unload my devices. I'm going to set it back up again. This time with the knot just past the bottom plaquette device. Reload my upper plaquette device. Again, ensuring that the load strand is on top of my brake strand. Everything is locked and loaded here. Notice how my knot here is right up against my bottom plaquette device. If my knot is 3 feet this way, that's going to eat up into how much throw my radium has, and make it really hard for me to pass that knot. So just barely enough slack to get it through the device, and no more. Awesome. Next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my radium here, and I'm going to pop my overhand as well as my mule hitch. Then I'm going to lower out my load. Sometimes you got to give it some assistance on the strand here, until my load is transitioned back to both of my plaquette devices. So awesome, we're transitioned back there. Now you can see how this is slack. I can remove my pressic here and my radium. I can unclip this guy here. Could even leave this set up if I have to do another knot pass later. And finally, I'm going to come back up here, remove my catastrophe knot. Then I'm good to continue lowering. Brake hand on the brake strand, defeat guide mode, continue lowering. And that's how to do knot pass the radium release hitch.